And we are on tape.
Okay, so if we start with a quick overview of British politics, because we've got the election coming up. The minor point is that Richie Sunak has screwed up again. This time he left the D-Day commemorative event early, which is obviously another faux pas or another unforced error. The biggest story is that Nigel Farage has entered the election race. He's taken over as leader of the Reform Party and is probably going to win the likeliest seat. And because this has split the Conservative vote, the latest poll is Conservatives on 19%, Reform on 17%, with Labour ahead on 40%. So it could be wipeout for the Conservatives. This is 5 years after having one of their biggest wins in history. And they actually altered the measuring system where she put Reform level with the Conservatives. Now, the thing is, it probably will be a Labour victory, but if Reform start overtaking Conservatives, two things could happen then. Other Conservative voters might say, well, we might as well jump to the Reform Party. They might have a chance of catching Labour. And some people who are voting Labour to ensure that the Conservatives are knocked out might say, well, yeah, the Conservatives are finished, so I might as well try Reform. So they could get some momentum up here. I don't think they'll win, but they could end up being the main opposition after the election. And the Conservative virtually wiped out. So, yeah, that's not a little thing in British politics, because the Conservative Party is, I think, is the oldest and most successful democratic political party. Because the party of Churchill, Benjamin Disraeli, has this long history, and it's just been blown to bits by a bunch of grifters. It's one of the best things I can say about the politicians. And liars and incompetent and condescending and detached from... Yeah, there's quite a few things I can say about Conservative MPs. Thing is, Labour, I don't think they're going to be a lot different. I was watching a podcast earlier by Peter Hitchens, and he says that Keir Starmer is going to be a Trotskyite. I think he might be overdoing it a bit, but I'm sure there's got some nasty things up their sleeve that Labour are going to dump on people without mentioning them. I mean, last time when Labour got in, that was opening immigration floodgates. I don't know what they're going to do next, but that's the state of British politics at the moment. So we're about 4 weeks from the general election. So I don't know what your opinion is. It's pretty mundane compared to the American election. The consequences, it is really small. I have to say this as someone who's British, who'd like to be British. I've seen more exciting elections than this, and they had a debate last night, the two leaders, Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer, and I didn't watch it. But the reports I heard back was it was boring, and the only way they could differentiate between each other was get into angrier exchanges. Well, one's a lawyer, the other one worked in finance. How much of this was performative, I don't know. I didn't watch it. But it had about as much as appeal as, I don't know, bathing in baked beans or something. Yeah, I thought, no, I'll watch a film instead. Yeah. So, yeah, I started watching Itchy the Killer. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
That sounds familiar. Or are there other movies with Ichi in the title? Because I know I've heard that before.
It's Japanese manga movie. I'm about half an hour in. Yeah, I've heard of it before. I've heard of Itchy the Clown. No, that's Ouchie the Clown. Yeah, that's something different.
No, this definitely was like anime or manga related. I believe, or an adaptation. And I remember a movie with Ichi, I-C-H-I, I think,
Yeah.
in the title, but I'm not sure if it's that one or not.
Yeah, it's one of the protagonists has slits in his cheeks, so he takes in a puff of cigarette smoke, then blows it out through the slits in his teeth. Cheeks. So yeah,
Very cinematic.
yeah, it's very weird. I mean, yeah, it's got that sort of art house gore feel to it. I'm only half an hour in, and it's a bit gangster movie-ish, but you know what Japanese movies are like. They sort of pick the ball up and run with it, you know. So if it's a bit weird and gory, you know, by the end it's going to be very weird and gory. So yeah, I might finish that off later.
Yeah, you said something about Rishi Sunak left the D-Day celebrations early.
Yeah,
I believe Joe Biden boogied out of there before people expected him to leave as well. I know Macron was up there like greeting the veterans and things, and running back and forth up in the stands to shake hands. Meanwhile, Jill was fast walking Biden off the stage to go do whatever. So I don't know if it's related or if they just both decided to leave early or what. But that's kind of odd.
Were they at the same event?
The D-Day celebrations or memorial, whatever you want to call it, in I believe they were in France. If this is the one,
Normandy, yeah. I picked.
Yeah, it must be
right.
The
yeah, there would be at the same event then. So yeah.
Yeah, it's the same where Biden did that weird squatting thing where people were speculating whether he crapped his pants.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, I've seen the Biden walk where he might have let one go and he's undies and he's walking sort of cagily.
Oh, no, this was one where he started to sit down and it seemed like earlier than necessary. I mean, nobody else was starting to sit down, but he did this weird thing where he like half squatted down 2 or 3 times and then finally actually sat down. And that's why people were speculating that he may have had an accident, because it was just so weird. All of a sudden, out of the blue, he's there doing this bending at the knees and hip thing. It looked funny. I mean, it looked like something was happening. I don't expect that he was actually having an accident. I mean, maybe he was, but I don't really think that's likely. I think he just was trying to sit down and forgot how or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah. Last night I watched Trigonometry, which is a UK chat show with Constantine Kissing and Francis Foster, and they had Tulsi Gabbard on, and so obviously she was talking about US politics, and obviously when Joe Biden came up, they asked about the mental health, and she said, well, she's obviously known Joe Biden for a long time, and she says, as he is now, he's not the same person.
Oh, obviously.
I mean, she. I found her quite honest, but being a bit diplomatic as well. And she sort of buys into the whole thing that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so to speak. She says she makes a distinction between a Democratic Party elite, and a Democrat Party, where the top elite bit is the corrupt bit that needs to go. And she was asked, is she now a Republican? And she says, no, she's an independent. So I don't think it makes any difference, really.
Is that same link you sent me?
Yeah, I sent you that yesterday, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll finish
I did watch that.
So
what struck me was that she started her journey, her transformation, whatever you want to call it. Everything she talked about is 2020 or after. And there's no way that she didn't know who the Democrats were in 2015, 2016 at the latest, because that's when she resigned from the DNC. I think she was like a
Wasn't
junior
she
or
elected?
something. She was, she had an office within the DNC and resigned to endorse Bernie Sanders. She was a Bernie Sanders supporter back then, the first time he ran. And they came after her at that point. They disinvited her from the first presidential debates. They were smearing her in the press, and people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz were talking shit about her to reporters and whatnot. So she knew back then who they were and what the Democrat machinery, what the establishment was capable of. So I don't know why she skipped all that and just started in 2020. Maybe it didn't fit whatever story she was trying to tell. But it would ring a lot truer to me if she started back then, because they were quite obviously already gunning for her. I mean, Hillary Clinton was the first one to call her a Russian agent. And
Yeah.
that didn't just start in 2020. that started back when she bucked the DNC to endorse Bernie.
Yeah, that was wasn't she
It was
first elected around
2015. Oh, I think she was first elected in like 2012, 2013, something like that, I
Yeah,
believe.
and it's about. She said she was pretty naive when she got there, which is understandable. She had 20 years in the military and she joined the Democratic Party. Then she finds out that she's expected to be in lockstep with the establishment, or the establishment will turn on her, which was. But I find it amazing when she said things like, CNN has a library of town hall debates and hers had been removed, and all dirty tricks like that. Mm-hmm. So, you see a lot of it online. They even, I mean, that's CNN, but and she also mentioned Google, where all the horrible stuff of her is elevated and all the nasty stuff suppressed. Now, I could tell you a story about that. Back in around 2002, I was talking to someone and it was about Al Gore. I think this before he was on the board of Google. Al Gore, before he jumped on the environmental bandwagon, he was from an oil family and he inherited 80,000 Occidental oil shares. So just before he jumped on the oil bandwagon, he sold them. Obviously, there's news article. When I first looked at it on Google, and I put in, Al Gore Occidental shares, it's a quite precise search, and it came up on the second or the third link down under the Google search. When I was telling her, probably about a year later, and he was just on the board, or just before he went on the board, I was talking to someone about Al Gore, and that he was from an oil family like George Bush. He didn't believe it. I said, well, when I look it up, and it wasn't on the front page, and I searched through, and it was either on the third or fourth page then. So that had been suppressed. And that was quite a direct search again, Al Gore, Occidental, family
shares.
Family shares or something like that. Yeah, so that's when I began to get an inkling that Google wasn't necessarily doing straight searches. And since then, you can almost predict. I mean, I use Yandex at the moment. Half of it's in Russian, but it's probably fairer.
Yeah, I use DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, I used that for a while, but
yeah, it's not perfect, but anything but Google, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I know. Have you seen those Google AI pictures where they say, show me a picture of the Pope, and they're all black blokes or Chinese women? They've erased all white men from Google AI, and they've tried to shut it down to fix it. I don't know how they
I've only messed with AI once, and that was a coffee related image that I was going to post in a coffee related Facebook group that I'm in. It was the thinker with a cup of coffee, and it was going to say what was it? I coffee, therefore I think, or something like that. I don't even remember specifically what text I put on it. That's the only time that I've messed with AI, other than, now that I think about it, on DeviantArt. I messed around with it a couple of times trying to make dragons, I think it was, but it was one time just for a little while, and I really haven't messed with the AI thing that much. I haven't even chatted with one of the bots yet, so just haven't gotten around to it.
I haven't done GPT chat or anything like that, but I've done the AI image creation, various cookie monsters, and testing out various other things. I mean, the Bing AI has a very good, quite a tight naughty sensor. It wouldn't let me put Cookie Monster in the boxing ring with Muhammad Ali. It wouldn't even let me put a Cookie Monster in a ring with Richard Nixon, which I also tried. Funny enough, it would let me put Cookie Monster playing the piano in Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart and various other things like that. But I've got files on that. I was testing the parameters of it and a few other things. So you have to find workarounds if you're gonna something. If you think Bing, imagine Bing AI as being a sort of head done, so to speak. And so if you want to do something like a topless woman, they wouldn't do that. You say a woman who had never used a bra, sunbathing in a nature's resort or something. I don't know if that will work, but you'd have to work away around the naughty words and what it was doing, so to speak. That's Bing AI. I've tried Gap AI, and that's crap. I've got a friend using Bing AI, and she's doing lots of witches fighting werewolves and things like that. But some of it's fantastic,
I've seen some really cool ones.
Yeah, some of them are daft, like people with 3 legs, and all the spellings wrong. And you've got
apparently they have a problem with giving people too many fingers and things like that. I've seen some where it looked like they had 7 fingers on each hand, and it's just crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. I just love these things. That's why I try to stay away from it. It becomes too addictive. So yeah, British politics at the moment, it's just bubbling along. Probably in a week or two, look at the polls. If Reform are gaining or overtaken Conservatives, and they looks like that's on trend, then it could be game on for some major political shifts. But at the moment, I think it may happen. A week's long time in politics. We got 4 of them, so anything could happen. But I don't think it's looking good for Conservatives. I've heard one survey say they could. One survey said they could be down to 3 seats. But what wasn't the Canadian Conservatives? They were in power, and they were reduced to 2 seats in a similar situation where they were attacked by a party called Reform as well, from the right. That was in the 80s, I think, or 90s. I can't remember. My Canadian politics isn't very...
it's probably better than mine.
Yeah. Well, all I've seen is all these conspiracy theories about Justin Trudeau, that his father was Fidel Castro. Have you seen those?
I've heard something about that, yeah.
They got pictures there. Said his mum was over in Cuba before he was born or something, and they got pictures of them in the same room. I can't remember her name. And then they're showing pictures of Fidel Castro next to Justin Trudeau. They reckon that his father's Fidel Castro.
There are a few similarities.
Yeah, so you got these sort of conspiracy theories talking about, but that's my limit of Canadian politics. Apart from it's going down the pan by the looks of things in Canada.
My main focus, whenever I've looked into what's going on in Canada, it's primarily, have they given up on the tar sands yet? Because I hate those with a passion. It's like the dirtiest and most useless, the lowest grade oil there is, and so they're really tearing up swaths of Canada to process those tar sands for almost nothing, and then they want to build the pipelines to bring the stuff through the USA, and it seems like they're piling one bad decision on top of another as far as that goes. So usually whenever I'm looking at, what's that?
Is that like open cast mining? I mean, they're just going there, suck it up rather than dig a mine shaft.
As I understand it, yeah, it is. It's literally just sand mixed with tar. It's almost like a La Brea tar pits, I guess, here in the U.S.
Right.
Except even more dirt and sand involved, and so it's like strip mining, except I don't think they have to blow up the sides of mountains and things to get to it. They just basically use bulldozers or whatever. But yeah, it's a really nasty business, and that's about the only thing that I pay a lot. Haven't even paid much attention recently. That was the only thing that I paid much attention to there for a while in Canadian politics, that kind of thing. What's up with the tar sands?
Yeah, there's actually I think it's a Netflix TV series called La Brea. It's based in California, where they fall down a pit and through a time portal up into a primeval time with saber-toothed tigers and all that. I started skipping through it. It's not worth watching. It's very kooky.
It sounds a bit like Land of the Lost. With
but it's not that
what
good.
Is his name? Oh, yeah, I was going to say that was kind of funny here and there. If you like Will Ferrell, it was hilarious.
Oh yeah, I think I remember seeing that. If while we're still on politics, sort of, the only other thing I've heard about US politics this week concerns Steve Bannon. One, he's been recalled to jail for not turning up at the Congress when he was subpoenaed for this January 6th dog and pony show. And the other thing, I watched, he gave an hour-long interview with GB News, and in it he's saying that he thought Britain would have a violent revolution because effectively they've broken intergenerational social contract where the older generation leaves something at least as good for the younger generation. He's not the only person saying that, but I have a hunch, being devious, he'd say something like that was before that Nigel Farage agreed to stand. So I think he was trying to provoke Nigel Farage into getting off his butt and standing, which would obviously raise the Reform Party vote, because even though Nigel Farage is very controversial among the ruling class, he's very popular on the grassroots. So a bit like Trump in the US, where the establishment media hates him, but increasing numbers of working class love him. It's that sort of thing. So bringing him in there sort of galvanises the grassroots, and obviously they've shot up in the polls. But I think we'll have to wait another week or so to see if that has any compounding effect. But yeah, so I listened to Steve Bannon for about an hour. I find it easier if I listen to people like Steve Bannon or James Carville or the equivalents in the UK, which was Alistair Campbell, who was a spin doctor for the Labour Party. Conservatives don't seem to have one, which is telling. Michael Grove, but they obviously haven't got anyone to them. They're giving them the basic advice, like don't walk out of memorial services early, and don't hold press conferences outside shipyards where they build the Titanic, and they do lack a spin doctor like a James Carville or Steve Bannon there to sort of make them look less stupid than they actually are.
Well,
So
I don't know if they want a James Carville alternative or you know, surrogate or whatever to do that, because James Carville hasn't been right about anything probably in decades. He talks a lot, and he keeps getting pushed onto these shows on MSNBC, CNN, or whatever, and they keep calling him a Democrat strategist. But he's been giving them bad advice since at least 2015, 2016, probably before that. He's just a blowhard who isn't right about anything ever. So they probably don't want one of those. They should avoid that at all costs.
Well, the last time I listened to him was about 3 weeks ago, and first of all, he spoke about the Democrat base and strategy, and I thought the points he made were sort of informed and on points. Then he moved on to the Republican supporters, and it was way out there. It's like he just didn't have a clue about what they were about at all, and what he got is cliff notes from MSNBC or something like that. It seemed a real Jekyll and Hyde 20 minutes I was listening to. I thought, yeah, well, okay, yeah, he seems on the ball about the Democrat. Then the Republicans thought, what? So, yeah, I think he could be onto something, but he does sometimes make some interesting points, because even if he can be a bit blowhard, yeah, but he can have some insights.
He's wrong about the Democrats as well. His focus is on messaging. His whole thing is we need better bullshit to fool the people with. He will never suggest that they do something that is popular, among voters or among the populace writ large. He will never suggest that they change a policy or a direction that they're going in. It's always just, how do we spin this? How do we get a better message? How do we get people to start believing us and trusting us again? But it's all about messaging. It's all about narrative.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by
that's it.
Nothing but bullshit.
Yeah, well, that's what spin doctors do. They try and work out who their target audience is and what sort of bullshit they'll swallow, which is probably another way to put it.
Well, the problem is that approach doesn't really work all that well here anymore. People have seen through the bullshit, and they're tired of it. And so when you double down on the bullshit, you push voters even further away. But they don't get that yet, or maybe they're incapable of understanding that. They're locked into, well, all we need is a better message. And that nothing could be further from the truth. If they want to change people's minds, they need to actually do things or stop doing things. Otherwise, they can come up with all the bullshit they want. People just aren't going to buy it.
That's come up in debates here because Keir Starmer accused of Rishi Sunak of lying about tax claims that Labour would do. And to be honest, it does look like he was lying. But I think it's the first time so they're accusing each other of lying. So that's probably the first time either of them have told the truth in a number of years anyway, when they talk about each other. So, no, I've got zero trust for either of them, to be honest. The Greens, they're fading in their loonies. Then you've got the regional parties. You've got the Scottish National Party, the Welsh one, Plaid Cymru. I don't know what's going on in Ireland. It's Sinn Féin seems to be hammered. They had the European elections uh, this weekend. Obviously, Britain's not in Europe anymore, so we don't have to put up with that. But they had them in the Republic of Ireland, and Sinn Féin lost a lot of seats, I think, and the Irish Nationalist or another Irish Nationalist party gained a load, and the Fianna Fáil and the I think has seen its vote go down. But again, I didn't take a close look at that. They have a PR system in the European Union where you need big shifts in voters to big shifts in votes to make littlest shifts in seat numbers. You know, one of the problems with PR, I mean, you're voting for people on party lists. So it's the party that's picking the MPs or the elected lawmakers, and so prioritising them. So it becomes very hard to say support a party, but vote their leader out. Where that's happened in a couple of elections in the UK, both the Ulster Unionist Party, who had a bit of a dodgy leader, he got voted out, where his other MPs won, and the Liberal Democrats in the last election, when their leader failed to define what a woman was. So that might be contributed to why she got voted out, but yeah, she got voted out as well. So that's one advantage I see over a constituency system than a PR, and we've got a constituency system. So I think Rishi Sunak can lose his seat as well. That's how bad things are. Wow. These are rumours. Looking at, I don't know, I forget the word for it, studying democratic trends and voting trends has a specific name. It's quite complex. I don't bother with that too much. I might look at a seat or two and think, well, this one might go that way or that the other way, but no, I don't have a lot of interest in that.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot really as far as big news type items going on here in the USA. Now, we do have the debate between Trump and Biden. It's apparently still on, and it's for later this month. I don't remember the exact day. It's like the 26th or 27th, maybe. And then I don't remember the date for this either, but we've got Netanyahu's coming to address Congress. He was invited by the Republican House leader and several other people to come and address Congress. And that, depending on where you sit on that issue, either pleases people or enrages people. There's not a whole lot of middle ground there.
Yeah, that's called a Marmite issue. That's a spread, a bit like Vegemite and that, a yeast-based spread. People either love it or hate it. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised you see some drama from some of the Democrats, a squad maybe. I mean, is that
there's been some squawking. I mean, even Bernie Sanders has said that he doesn't like it, but he's such a cuck. He still won't even say the word genocide. He'll describe all these horrific, terrible, unacceptable things that are happening in Gaza, but he never, ever, ever, ever puts it under the umbrella of genocide. He will not say that word still. And he's telling people that we have to vote for Biden. We have to support him. We have to make sure Trump doesn't win, even though Biden's the one doing all these horrible, terrible, unacceptable things, because we are a full partner in what Israel's doing in Gaza. We're giving them the money to do it. We're giving them the weapons and arms to do it. We're lending our intelligence services, satellites and AWACS planes and all that stuff. So we're a full partner. You might as well say that it's Israel and the USA that's doing this. We're glued at the hip. And Bernie, the fucking disappointment that he is still out there telling people to vote for Joe Biden, the guy who's doing it. So if that tells you what any of the complaints from Bernie or the squad are worth, only like diehard vote blue, no matter who Democrats really even give any fucks anymore what the squad or Bernie has to say. Everybody else is done with them. Everybody to the left of that, anyway.
Yeah, one thing I've heard, obviously, I don't know if it's true, is that Israel has managed access to Five Eyes intelligence service things, but they won't let Israel join Five Eyes because they believe they'll just abuse it left, right, and centre for their own agenda, which is probably a reasonable assumption to make. If they get a chance to bomb Iran and take out certain elements of the Republican Guard, they might be too tempted to do that. So as you said, it's this intelligence they'll get on Gaza, but it's like they still want. Have you heard of Curtis Yarvin?
That name does not ring a bell.
No, he's. I think he's the first person who used the word red pill. Then it was hijacked by the Incel Brigade, and then it was gone back to more the podcast thing. Anyway, Curtis Yarvin, he did a Substack where he said that you've got different types of wars, and you compare them to dogfights. He said when Azerbaijan overran that Armenian enclave, he said we didn't hear much about that because America didn't have a dog in the fight. He said, when you get the Ukraine, the second type of war is when you have one dog in the fight, and that is Ukraine v Russia, and Ukraine is the Americans' dog there because they're getting the weapons for everything. Then he said the third type of the dogfight is when it starts up and America thinks, well, fuck it, I'm going to jump in the dog pit as well and join in. An example of that would be the Vietnam War. Then you've got the fourth one, which is where you've got both dogs in the fight. And that's Israel and Gaza, and they're trying to play both sides. That's why there's no solution, because if they just said, Israel, do what you want, they'll probably go in and wipe them all out.
Well, that's basically what we've done.
Yeah, I think that's what Netanyahu wants to do. And
Biden may say that he's disappointed, or he wagged his finger at Netanyahu and said, don't you do this or that. But that's bullshit. That's nonsense. He hasn't halted a single weapon shipment. He hasn't put any pressure that he absolutely could put onto Israel. This thing could have been over months ago if the USA actually wanted it to be. There's that whole was it the aid pier charade that was broken up by waves, apparently. It was so well constructed, some tall waves took it out. So that shows you how much of a nonsense
it's managed warfare for people to make money, isn't it? So they give Israel the weapons, people make money, but they can't finish them off. Well, they've got to stop here.
Well, of course they're going to make their money, but the goal is the elimination of the Palestinians. America's perfectly fine with that. Well, America's fine with that because they're helping them do it. Have been this whole time.
Democrats I would disagree that the Democrats are fully in on it because that's where their new voters are coming from. Say like Dearborn, Michigan. It's probably a Muslim town there.
Yeah, that's where I think like 13% of primary voters voted none of the above, basically, or no choice. I forget exactly how it was phrased, but it was basically none of the above. And Biden absolutely cannot rely on winning Michigan. Not only because of the Arab and Muslim population, but younger voters and people who, silly people who don't like genocide. They're not going to vote for him. because he did it. He's doing it, and Democrats especially. I mean, and this may be true of politicians broadly speaking, but Democrats especially. You can't listen to a single word they say because they lie constantly about everything. You have to look at what they actually do. And so the squad and Bernie or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, whoever, any Democrat you care to name, it doesn't matter what they say. They'll say whatever they think they need to at the moment to achieve whatever it is they're trying to do. But they don't believe any of it. They're not going to do any of it. It's just rhetoric. You have to look at what they do. And people have seen what Joe Biden is doing, and they're not listening to the bullshit anymore. And so they can't count on those demographics anymore. The core Democrat, like you were saying, the Muslim and Arab population historically have favored Democrats. I don't know if it's going to be like from this point forward, but in this election especially, that is not a given anymore. The Democrats might as well just forget it.
Yeah, I saw an uptick in support for Republicans from the Arab Muslim voters. So,
well, across the board, actually, he's raised his numbers with blacks and Latinos and the young, the youth vote. Trump is actually more popular with the demographics where he underperformed in 2016 now than he was then. So yeah, there's been a shift. Whether, it'll be enough remains to be seen. But he has definitely made some inroads.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting year. Yeah, shall we wind it up now? It's been 55 minutes or 50 minutes roughly.
Could do.